Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is a blast from the past. We have two members of the groups, VISE and SRO. We have Don Sackett and Mike Killer Kilborn. They are going to be hosting a reunion concert in the coming days. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Well, it was great you're able to. You're not quite in the geriatric ward yet, right?
Heck no.
No, okay.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Working on it.
But it is a kind of a blast from the past, from my high school days, to have the two of you on the show, and I've known both of you for many moons, but I can't remember the evolution of VISE in SRO. Was it VISE first, then SRO?
Yes.
Oh, I got it right.
You did.
And so you're having kind of like a reunion concert.
We wanted to take the thing back for years and years. I was probably the biggest reason to hold it back. It was brought up to my attention numerous times. And we had a visit last year. Mike showed up at the house with Jeff. And we had a nice long talk and stuff. And I think that inspired it more than anything because it just kind of broke the ice.
So who are the members?
Well, the members that are going to be in the show that we're performing are Don, myself, Bill Richardson, and Chuck Farrar.
Right.
And Bill Richardson will be on bass and Chuck Farrar on keyboards.
Boy, Chucky, he's lucky to be performing. He had a pretty near death experience. He managed to pull out of he pulled out of a real nosedive there with his health problems. I bet you he's pretty darn happy to be performing again.
Oh yeah, he's been pushing for it for the last couple of years, mainly having to coordinate it with my visits because I do live in Florida. Right. So.
Yep.
So this warm weather, this is kind of what, chill?
This isn't warm yet. What I hear coming up the end of the week sounds more like what we deal with on a regular basis.
Right. We were talking beforehand about, I've known you guys as, did Jeff, my brother, was he the light man for both groups or only one group?
Yeah.
Both groups.
Right. I was telling you before the show, I remember driving for you guys a couple times. I remember Barry, Vermont, and I remember, it seems like Colebrook. And I quickly came to the conclusion if I was going to be a member of the band, as in a roadie or something, we had to wrap that thing up by 9 o'clock at night and I had to be home by 10 because I remember being so tired. I don't know what time you guys wrapped it up at, but I quickly learned that your lifestyle was not geared for me.
Well, back in the day, we usually got done around 1:30.
Right.
Depending on the state. But in Vermont, it was 1:30, so they could get everybody out of there by 2.
Right. So what does VISE stand for? Is it stand for anything?
Big, heavy metal vise that you'd tighten down like a mechanic would hold
is that basic?
nail and bend it, or that kind of a thing.
How did it come about?
Well, tell him about the sign.
Well, that's another part of it. Back in a band called The Knives that I was in with Ed Glover, referring back to that, I'd constructed a sign with VISE, KNIVES, Knives, and with a little bit of creativity, the name VISE came out of that.
Trying to keep the sign, like keeping what letters were there.
The sign wasn't just something you'd put up on doing a mural or that type of a thing. It was a metal fabricated sign with lights attached to it, and it did all these things like you'd see at a carnival kind of thing.
You came up with VISE by being frugal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it did some things like a mini version of KISS with all the lighting stuff, and we just wanted to keep it because being show band was the type of thing.
I do remember because I have no idea why I remember things because if I put my keys down, 5 minutes later I'm trying to find them. So SRO, if I recall right, a lot of people thought it meant standing room only.
It
But
is.
That's exactly what it
Right.
That's what it is.
And-
Your
or-
brother would lead you to believe it was something else only through his warped sense of humor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was right. And
Yes.
so how long did Vice last for?
Well, Vice and SRO were really technically the same band.
Yeah.
It's just changed the name when we got management because we thought it'd be easier to remember and it fit in with when we started doing more contemporary music.
Right. So what kind of music are you going to be playing at the upcoming concert?
Exclusively classic rock, I would say.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
covers kind of a gambit of anything.
Journey, Alda Nova.
And then Zeppelin, and then
Yeah.
CCR, and then
Bryan Adams.
might even be a little solo thing of me doing Beatles. We're not sure
Bon
about
Jovi.
that yet.
Right.
So it's just a lot of different things that would be categorized as classic rock.
You know, here's a question I've often asked musicians. How the heck, I have a hard enough time remembering what I'm going to say leading into the show. How do you remember so many songs?
We don't.
It's kind of, well, all mine are by memory. It's one of those things where it's just automatic after a while. It's like muscle memory almost. And if something happens where it'll screw it up, you'll forget the words because then the whole continuity of it has been disrupted. So you've learned to do it because you got to sing and play at the same time, and then be aware of what's going on in front of you. And if you start thinking about one thing or the other, that's when you're going to mess up.
And do you remember all of them too?
No, I don't. Honestly, I've always had a block with that, and I don't know why. It's just if I do it long enough and consistent, but I've jumped around so much that it eludes me.
Well,
If I had more time, I could certainly.
and
catch
being
up.
behind the drums, he's got the luxury of being able to put cheat sheets in places, which I used to do, but with my vision now, it's an impossibility.
Or monitors.
Like a
But everybody uses the monitors these days.
Yeah.
I mean, Ozzy uses monitors. You look on a stage like for most of those guys, and you're seeing stage monitors everywhere.
and a lot of them.
You know.
They wrote those songs and wrote those words.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a crutch because when you get older, you do forget things. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you found that to be the case? Because you must be what, 57,
I'm 58.
58, and close. And you must.
I'm so old I don't even talk about it.
Oh,
I try to forget.
yeah, that's it.
I'm old enough to know better, but I don't always think that I do.
Yeah. So, how has the music scene changed over this time?
That's a
that
long
would take
story.
that would take an hour just dealing, especially with monetary,
Right.
what's happened to it because with the advent of MP3s, computers and whatnot, it's become almost nearly impossible for up and coming people to even make money at it.
Ooh, I'm going to tell you. You talked to the producer of this show, Todd Pronto, who goes around to gigs all over New England, and he feels for you because especially here in the Newport, the greater Newport area, the greater Northeast Kingdom, is some people want to pay you. They'll give you like 3 drinks and a meal, and others will
Kinda
throw in
sad.
maybe $50 or something.
Yeah, well, it's steadily gone downhill, but what really kicked it off was like iPods and things like that because it made it easier for people to steal the music.
Yes.
But then that gave record companies a reason to try to have more control over each band, where they have a 360 deal, which is they have control of the records, of their merchandising, and even the gate receipts.
Right.
So it's the young guys. My son knows a lot of bands that are signed, and when they go home from their tours, they got to have a day job.
But you did too when you all worked, or did you?
No,
No.
for up until the early '90s, that was my main job, and I was able to buy a house with that money. So
Yeah, I don't. As I said, Todd, he goes around. He goes all around New England doing little gigs and that, and he works here. He works here full time, and then heads out on the weekends, and know, I don't think he's going to be making. I don't think he could feed himself off what he would make if he just performed around here. So
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, I know older guys that are in my age group that play down my way, and it's all they do, but they got to work at these little pubs. Each is a one-nighter, and they've got to scale it down to doing it solo to 3-piece, and just little. It's like playing in somebody's living room. Some of these places, and they got to play 5-6 nights a week, and I don't know how they're going to retire on that stuff, but they're still doing it.
You know, I often, as you both know, I make my career out of interviewing older folks, and the thing is they all sit around and listen to music of their time, you know, that era. So do you think in another like 20 years when we're all, you know, up there in age, that everybody's going to be, our generation will be sitting around listening to Def Leppard and and everything, and be really rocking the nursing home versus their generation? A lot of it's, you know, especially up here, good French Canadian fiddle music, really.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I can imagine you both will be really rocking the nursing home if you ever end up in one.
Let us near something that we can turn it up, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's the only way we'll be able to hear it, anyways.
Well, yeah.
Do you either want to have hearing loss at all?
I don't have hearing loss, but I do have tinnitus.
I do. I actually have a situation in my right ear. One time, when I was playing live quite a few years back, there was a monitor test that went horribly wrong, and the monitor was put up too close, and there wasn't what's called a gate on it to keep it under control, and it just made this god-awful screech, and it actually, you know, ruptured some stuff, and it messed me up to the point where I lost probably 20%.
Huh. Now tell me, I'm just having a flashback here. Did Scott Cunningham also do some work for you guys?
Yeah, he was our sound tech.
That's what when you were talking about sound,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I ran into him. I guess he's in Florida too.
Yes, he lives. He just moved to my area.
Right.
He's got a daughter and grandchild over that way.
Right.
So,
You know, Don, I know you have never disappeared from the music scene. You just kind of evolved.
I kind of had to. You know?
What is your business?
Basically, you know, I did the whole live thing for years and years in different bands, whatever. There came a point where my mother got sick with cancer and very ill, so I came back up this way. I said, what the devil am I going to do up here, you know? And I looked around, and make a long story short, the DJ thing was invented, or for me anyway. I had to take some band equipment and kind of make it my own, and I just kind of grew a little bit. You know, I did some parties for people and stuff, and I finally said to myself, well, there is money in that, so if I learn more about that, then I can actually run with it, you know.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Because I know you play quite often. You provide your services at the border in Derby quite often.
Whiskey Dan and I freelance on Saturdays. Sometimes I go there. The border have been very nice to me. It's a small place. It's local, and it's handy for me. You know, I don't have to go very far. It enables me to pursue other interests that I have as well. But yeah, I do freelance quite a bit and go elsewhere as well.
So, Mike, what has life been like for you since you've left the concert, or the Northeast Kingdom performing world?
well, I basically moved down to Florida because I wanted to continue playing, and when the drinking age went up, a lot of the bars dried up too. So it enabled me to continue doing music full time once I found bands to play with.
So you still do perform full time?
No, not anymore. I've lost my vision, or parts of it, where I couldn't drive back in 2002. I've had glaucoma since I was 28. So it was a steady decline with that anyway. So when I lost the ability to drive, it made it hard for me to audition and get to gigs and things like that. And it's really hard for other musicians to just be my chauffeur. So about 6-7 years ago, I stopped playing live, but I'm still recording, and I've been doing that because a friend of mine and myself have got signed to an indie deal back in 2010.
Now, how do you describe your current form of music? I'm not, as Todd will tell you, I have horrible taste in music. So how do you describe your current music?
Well, we were doing a more extreme form of metal.
Right.
It's just me and another guy, and now it's more like it's heavy, but it's got a 70s sound to it.
Right.
But it would be more palatable to the masses. So
Right.
we just finished recording that a couple months. I just finished mixing it a couple months ago, and he's just working on seeing what he can do with it, trying to get it where it could be on college radio. Because the deal we had with the last company, this wouldn't be their cup of taste for music. It's not extreme enough.
Really?
So, and I got into it basically because that's the kind of music he likes. Not necessarily stuff I had listened to in the past, but it was challenging on the guitar because it was so fast.
Right.
So after about a year of going over scales and stuff like that, started recording it.
Okay, back to the upcoming concert. It's going to be held on Saturday, July 27th.
Yeah.
Why only? Because I think the first thing that jumped out at me was $5. Anybody can afford $5. How come so cheap?
I can answer that one for you. When we first talked about this whole thing, we were trying to just find a place to do it. We just wanted to get together and just maybe see if we could even play together.
Right.
We really could have just settled for a living room. But after talking with a fellow named Danny Green, I believe it is, from the Elks Club, I realized that they were maybe in need of, a little boost in their
Right.
finances and whatnot. So I worked a deal with them, which is very similar to something that we did to get a practice space when we first started this. Very simply put, we're doing this there with the intent that whatever money they collect from, the $5 cover charge, which is minimal but still effective, and their 100% of their liquor sales, they will keep all that money. We are doing this for nothing. We are getting nothing out of it. In fact, I'm putting money into it. The other guys are using their resources as well. In my terms, I'm going to rent a U-Haul truck and, get the sound system there, lighting and whatnot. Yeah.
So, are you guys, you just got up here from Florida.
Yes.
Have you guys gotten together to practice, or is this going to be on the fly?
Oh, this isn't going to be on the fly.
I don't know.
It's we've had a couple rehearsals already. Been challenging, but
Yes. Yes, it is.
takes a while to get acclimated to each other. But it's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be fun, and that's the whole point of it.
Well, that's the idea.
So tell me, I know Chucky, and he plays the keyboards,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and I've totally blanked out Bill Richardson. Now tell me about him.
Bill joined us in mid-'83 after Dan Lord, our
That
first
sounds
bass
about
player.
right.
Right.
Dan Lord, our first bass player, had left.
Right.
So, and Don can explain the rest of it because he knew Bill.
Right.
Well, Bill was just brought on board again because I knew him in the past, extensive sound knowledge and whatnot, and very quick to jump into those sort of things. Just really a great guy to work with and everything. So we were really happy to have brought him in.
Right.
And he just got done playing with a band that was popular in parts of Vermont called Pilot.
Right.
So he was already, his chops were already right there. So.
He lives in, I believe, well, he was living in Waterbury. I think he may be in Montpelier now.
Right. So has Chuck and Bill, have they been performing throughout the years, or are they coming back? Are they coming out of retirement?
No, Bill actually does some stuff with, I believe, some sort of Christian rock bands and whatnot. He learns the parts and they go out and they do their thing. I don't know much about the details, though.
Right. And I know Chucky, he's, for the last 2 or 3 years, it was just trying to stay on this side of the sod.
Yeah.
Which apparently he's pulled that off.
I think prior to that, by the end of the 80s, he pretty much eschewed the keys and went back to playing bass, which is one of his original instruments.
Yep.
Right. So what time is the concert?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Bedtime.
Kind of.
No.
Kind of. Yeah.
I think you're going to have a good turnout. I think there's going to be enough people around who want to listen to good old classic rock. By the way, I have a 3-year-old grandson, and I love country, but I really also love classic rock, and we go around when he's in the car. We take him. We're listening to classic rock, and he really loves the rock down to like Billy Idol and
Oh, sure.
all that. Creedence Clearwater Revival. So I'm hoping, he tells his parents he loves country, but then he tells me he loves classic rock, and I watch him rock down to classic rock.
That's great.
I know he'd love everything you play. I bet you'll give a lot of people flashbacks to the days of Jimmy's, the Del Bar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys perform at the Del Bar?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It'd probably be even harder to, with all the laws, because since you guys have performed here,
Well-
maybe not you, but
I know.
it's tough now to work.
Drinking age was 18 in those days.
Well, technically, but it used to be said back in our day that the drinking age was 18, or if you could see over the bar. In other words, is they even 18. That wasn't taken too seriously.
Especially in Canada.
Right.
Especially with the-
That's what I'm saying. In Canada,
Yeah.
it was just like, the one thing I remember going to the going to Jimmy's, is I'm the middle kid. So Jeff, of course, could get in. Then my little brother would walk in, who was underage, and then then I'd get to the door. Must be the youthful, dashing one out of the 3 boys.
Oh.
Jimmy would say ID. My little brother had just walked in, and anytime I went in there, I got ID'd. But as I said, I think it's because I'm just so youthful and dashing compared to my.
That's got to
There
be
you
it.
go. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's got to be it.
So where else did you play around here? Or where didn't you play, I guess?
Oh boy. Well, Jimmy Campbell, we had to make a decision between Jimmy Campbell as a manager or Bruce James, which is another fella that was a
Right.
professional band manager at the time.
Owns most of the radio stations.
Exactly. Yep. And brilliant businessmen, both of them, of course. Jimmy Campbell, of course, had a number of options, and the biggest option that he had was because he had a club, his own club. He used all the agents, not just one exclusively.
Right.
So his strategy, very simply, was to each agent, he would say, if you want me to take your bands, you've got to take my band. So he was able to put us to work with that strategy, and we worked constantly, and we worked all over the place. I mean, all over New England.
And the other advantage was when we rehearsed at Jimmy's.
Yes.
So every time we rehearsed, it was a stage experience as opposed to being in a cramped room. We set up like we would at a show while we rehearsed.
There's one I posted that this is coming up online. Of course, it got some comments, and then Eric Piper of Derby posted he's for some reason he has a poster of you playing at the Moose,
Yeah.
the Moose
Yeah.
Lodge.
He showed me that a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
on
where
his
where
phone.
yeah, where is that? Now that was located out in
Bloomfield.
Bloomsfield.
Yeah,
You don't
Bloomfield,
think of
Vermont.
because that was the thing back then, and maybe it's still the case now. But there were bars out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
But I think a lot of things have changed since your time, in the sense of and some for the good, like the drinking age went up, and that can be debated. But they're also taking DWI far more, or
Yes.
DUI far more seriously. But it doesn't seem like people. It doesn't seem like people dance as much anymore either. Like,
I think because of social media, the younger people aren't going to see cover bands like people of our group do. Because I've noticed down my way, the only people I see going out are still people my age.
Right.
The younger kids are staying at home or going to, the occasional concerts, but they don't go to see cover bands very often.
Because around here, you can easily count on one hand how many places somebody can go and dance, and
Yeah.
but you know what? There's just very few people. Because if with my older folks, especially the World War II generation, some of those people, they can almost be in wheelchairs, but if they hear music from their time, those people, it's just like they're resurrected, and they hit the
Right.
they go out. Of course, they really danced. It was that very art. It was a very artistic form of dancing. So, all right, and I should note from a history perspective, the Elks Lodge has a long history in performers. It started out. It was built in 1950 as the Red Wing Dance Hall. The Red Wing Dance Hall was originally out in Irisburg, right outside of Coventry. It burned about 1949, and then Earl Hackett and his son Carl, they built they ended up building the Red Wing where the Elks is, and for 10 years that even attracted some big band people who were passing through the area.
Oh, sure.
And then 1960 it became the Elks Lodge, and just because at that period of time too, it went out because people were really fixated on the newfangled thing, television. So people didn't go out as much anymore.
Sure.
So they sold it to the Elks. But you are going to be performing at a historic location, as in the Red Wing Dance Hall.
It's gonna be fun.
So okay, again, the date of the concert.
July
27th.
27th.
Yep.
At the Elks Lodge, and as you can't go wrong on the price, $5. You can scrape up your you can even scrape up your cans and go and the Redemption Center is right across the road.
Oh, yeah.
Find that $5 and go up and have a blast from the past. Okay,
Help
Don.
support the Elks Club. Definitely help to support them.
Yes.
Also, they've got a huge space there for motorcycles to park. They have that big open field right beside there. So
Right. Oh, is that the
there's a
same?
lot
It's the
of
same weekend.
Oh, same
there's a
weekend.
lot of
is it?
motorcycles coming to
Yeah,
town.
the combat veterans.
Yes.
Yes.
The combat
I'd
veterans.
like to
Same
see
day,
some of
actually.
those folks up there.
So, okay, final words.
Final words: be there.
Yes. Come out, see us. It's going to be a great time.
Okay.
And thank you for your time.
Okay, and
Yes,
thank you
thank you,
for
Scott.
coming on, and thank you for giving me a little blast from the past. And I still cannot be your roadie because I still, unless you start having shows about 4. I do get up at 4 in the morning.
9 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.